You're watching the TCMMA podcast.
This weekend is going to be absolutely ridiculous. I mean, there's just so much going on this weekend. I'm bound to get in trouble. I mean, you got Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fighting Friday night. So there goes Friday. Saturday, of course, you got college football, which we'll get into that a little bit in a minute because I've kind of tuned out because Florida State's 1-8, 1-9. I mean, it's atrocious. It's like when my team is bad, I can't even watch. Then Saturday night, UFC 309, John Jones, Stipe Miocic. Yeah, you heard that right. It's Stipe. It's not Tom Aspinall. I know that's what everyone's hoping for, but it's going to be Stipe. And then, of course, Sunday you got football. So NFL style. And the Dolphins won last week, so you know I'm on board this week. You know I'm ready to go. And it's weekends like this that always make me nervous. Because if anything comes up, I'm going to have to miss something, which is completely and totally unacceptable. Unless it's an emergency. But something's bound to come up, and I'm bound to get in trouble. That's just the way it goes. I'm bound to get in trouble. Because if I'm watching sports all weekend, then I'm neglecting the woman a little bit, right? And that means in some way I'm bound to get in trouble. Because I'm going to be missing things I should be doing, whether it's washing the dishes or mowing the lawn or you know, doing some of these things that us fellows do. I'm going to be missing out on some of those things because sports is going to be on constantly. And of course, we do the podcast, and pay-per-view weekend for the UFC is the biggest weekend because we're doing a live show Saturday night. We don't really do it for all the fight nights, but unless it's a big one. So it's just a lot more pressure this weekend, a lot more preparation. Meanwhile, Jake Paul and Tyson are fighting Friday, so I'm probably going to have to go live for that as well. And yeah, it's going to be interesting this weekend. Of course, I'm going to report back next week. And I know all you single guys are out there right now saying, I'm glad I'm single. I ain't got to worry about no woman telling me what to do. Enjoy that while it lasts, fellas. Because all the married men and men with serious girlfriends are looking at you right now like, yeah, enjoy it while it lasts. Because once you get a woman, oh yeah, your life is going to change. And there are going to be responsibilities outside of sports. And that's tough because that's what we like, right? We like sports. Especially when our teams are good. Like if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan right now, you're not missing the game this weekend, right? You're not missing the game. It doesn't matter what happens unless it's an emergency. And therefore, you're bound to get in trouble with your woman potentially because you're taken up for a few hours, especially if they don't like sports. If your woman likes sports and, man, if she likes the same team as you, that's golden because then you know, okay, at least she's engaged in the game as well. But if she's not, you're bound to get in trouble at some point in time. Might as well just face it. I was watching something the other day and they asked a woman one word to define marriage and she said war. I was like, that's the best thing I ever heard, one word line for being married. Because it is. It's, you have to give up some things. Like sports, you might miss some things here and there. Although my fiance will tell you I don't ever miss any sports. So, that means, again, I'm bound to get in trouble. But all you single guys out there, like, no woman's ever going to tell me what to do. Okay, you must be 20-something years old right now. Enjoy it while it lasts. But yeah, so my weekend is going like this. Friday, I'm getting off work, and I'm getting set up for Tyson Jake Paul. Now, I thought there was going to be our local high school football team here is like 9-1 right now. So the playoffs are here. Everyone's pumped up. And then in the state of West Virginia, they shut down the high school playoffs due to a court injunction. So there's like 8 games times 4 there's 32 playoff games this weekend. They're all canceled right now. They're postponed, not canceled, but postponed. And no one knows who's playing who because they have a point rating system that is all jacked up and no one knows how it works. And you had like 3-7 teams make the playoffs, and it's like usually the top 16 in each class have winning records. So teams got left out that had like 6-4 records, and no one can figure out the points. So it's a major deal. And right now, they have shut down the playoffs this weekend. Now that's kind of, I want to see the team play, obviously, but that's kind of good for me. In a sense, because Jake Paul and Tyson are fighting Friday night, so I'm going to miss the football game. You see what's happening here? So that conflict is out the window. But that means everyone is going to wake up on Saturday and want something to do because there wasn't much to do Friday night. Meanwhile, I'm preparing for UFC 309 Saturday. So at some point, I'm bound to get in trouble. Now, Saturday morning, afternoon, again, my team, Florida State, is like 1-8. They made the worst decision ever not getting Deion Sanders. And since they went undefeated last year and got robbed of the playoffs, everybody left the program. They had to bring in a bunch of new people who aren't diehard Seminoles. And you're seeing what happens, the worst record since I've been alive. I mean, by far, 1-9, 1-8, it's just ridiculous. The coach should be fired immediately, in my opinion. It doesn't matter that you went 13-0 last year, it's just unacceptable. And, now this is basically your team. You've been there 3, 4, 5 years. It's your team. All the players from the old coach that were groomed are gone. And we're seeing what happens. Everything fell apart. And I'm telling you this as a Florida State fan because I'm not engaged in college football. Now I'm a huge Deion fan. Deion Sanders should have been the coach of Florida State, so I find myself rooting for Colorado. Plus they're black and gold. I like that. Deion's looking fresh on the sideline. The boys are winning. And not many, I mean, they're going to have to now, but not many places could put up with Deion Sanders. Florida State didn't want to put up with him, so they went a different direction. Even though he's an alumni of the program and proven everyone wrong right now that he couldn't run the Seminoles. The Seminoles will be headed to the playoffs almost every year if Deion Sanders was the coach right now, not only because of the team they have this year, but the 2-3 years of players behind them. Florida State does not have that right now. They're in a position where they have to recruit hard every year just to have solid players on the field, and it's still 1-8. And I can go on about that forever. I mean, it's just driving me absolutely up the wall. But this season is lost. Go Colorado Buffs. Hopefully they make the playoffs. And Deion says, I told you so. And hopefully he still considers coming to Florida State because if they were going to get him, it would be this year. They're going to have to pay a boatload to get rid of the coach. And they're going to have to pay a boatload to get Deion Sanders. But if they want to win, that's what they have to do. And the new regime there, from the president down to the athletic director, it's going to have to be something that they're going to have to give up a little and say, hey, we need Deion. And that's not always easy for guys. They want to do things their way. They don't want someone else coming in and being, prime time, if you will. But the fact is that you're going to have to do that if you want to win. So I haven't been engaged in college football. I know some teams like Alabama and Georgia somewhat. I don't know the exact records, have been struggling. I know Miami was undefeated. They fell to Georgia Tech. So I'm still in the loop a little bit. But it's so fuzzy this year with new teams. In a great year, of course, I'm going to be locked in for the playoffs when they come because it's the first time there's been 12 teams. My team's not in it, but it's still going to be interesting. So you got all that going on in college football. So I'm a little bit busy Saturday morning, but not really because I'm really looking forward to UFC 309. And the two fights I want to see are the final two, right? That we all want to see. We got Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler. That's going to be ridiculous. It's the rematch. Chandler looked like he all but won the last fight and then got KO'd in the second round. And then you got John Jones versus Stipe, which it's still a heavyweight division title, but John Jones should run through him. So those are the three big fights this week if you include Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. So big time weekend. Then you roll into Sunday. Got to get up for church. I've been going to church 3 or 4 weeks in a row. The jury is still out as far as the church that we are going to. For me, I'm excited about the church because it's similar to the one I went in Florida. It's non-denominational. It's, it just seems comfortable, but there's some things missing. That fires, I don't feel that fire, that spirit when I'm there. But the church has a lot of potential. So we'll see how that goes. If the family wants to keep going, hopefully so, we'll see. But it's been tough the last, the first few weeks going there. So we'll see how it goes, but it's got potential. But, I'm telling you that because I'm back in, man. I'm back in, I'm fired up. And that's going down Sunday morning. So a few hours of sleep, up late Saturday night, going to church Sunday, and then I come home and the Dolphins game is on. Meanwhile, we got several podcasts to do on Sunday. So it's like I'm probably going to do one at halftime of the Dolphins game, assuming they play at 1. I have to double check that. And then after the game, I got to do another one before the sun sets. Well, we got light too, but try to get another one in before the sun sets. And so basically this weekend is jam-packed with stuff to do. But when I'm busy, it looks like I'm just hanging out by myself. And that doesn't go over well always with the woman, as she would probably get on here and tell you. It's ridiculous. As I said before, I'm addicted to sports, man. I love sports. And especially when there's a lot of, this weekend with the Friday night affair, it just makes it even tougher. It just makes it a longer weekend. I'm not going to be able to do the things around the house that I would normally do. Luckily, it's getting cold, so I don't have to mow the grass as much. The garbage will get taken out and the dogs will get walked. But above that, not much more is going to be happening around the house for me. So I'll have to report back to tell you if I survived the weekend. But make sure you tune in, man. Saturday night, we'll be live. Depending on where you're hearing this podcast, we go live on YouTube. So check us out there at TCMMA podcast. And we're always live for the final 3 fights on pay-per-view night. And the third fight is Bo Nickel. And he's going to run through, who's he fighting? Paul Craig? Yeah, he's going to run through him. No problem. But we've been doing the picks on what's the app we're using? I forget. But we've been doing the fantasy UFC team, fantasy NFL teams. It's like $1. You put in $1, and if you go crazy, you can come out with a couple thousand, right? The most I've won is like $3 off the dollar. So it's, you can call it betting if you want, but not really. I make sure I don't go crazy. I just put in $1 or $3 every week and then be able to enjoy a little team. And I'll tell you, there's been some weeks where I've had like a dominant team. And still can't find a way to win. And I'm talking like 5 of the 6 fighters have KOs. And then in NFL this past weekend, Monday night, we just went crazy and took all Miami Dolphin players and we're kicking butt. The defense was going off, and we still didn't come out with any money. It's crazy. So it's very difficult to win. But it's fun in the sense that you have a team that you're following. And I'm out of the loop on fantasy football now. I've always talked about fantasy UFC somehow, and they got that now on the app, so you can do that. And we've been doing it, and I'm waiting for the big payday. I'm gonna bet $1 every week until I win 10 grand. But if I lose, it's not a big deal. It's $1. So, I'm comfortable with that. I'm not gonna let it get the better of me like it does some people. I'm gonna make sure I stay focused and just play $1 or $3 and report back and let you know when I win big, which I've been close a few times. But as I'm learning with UFC, you need all 6 fighters because you pick 6. You need all 6 fighters to definitely win, and you need 5 of those 6 to get finishes. And that's not easy. It's not easy at all. And if there's, of the 12 fights, there's 4 or 5 finishes, you can bet somebody pick those 4 or 5 fighters and they're going to win. So it's like you have to be perfect to hit the payday. And if you watch the picks every week, we've never been perfect. We've been 11-1. We've been 12-1. We've been 10-1-1. We've been pretty solid, but we've never gone like 12-0, 13-0. We've been 5-0 on Contender Series, but it's very hard to run the table on any week. There's going to be one fighter that loses a terrible decision, or even when you have an almost perfect week, something is going to happen to where it ruins it from being perfect. But it does make it fun. So I'm going to go all in on those picks this week. UFC 309, there's a lot of good fights. And that's what we're doing this weekend. We're just camping out here in the tent where we do the podcast. It's going to be freezing. It's going to be like 40 degrees. So my teeth will be chattering a little bit. I won't sound like my normal self. Hopefully the fights are good, so I don't have to worry about thinking about being cold. I can just worry about seeing some big KOs or submissions, or at least some, you know, you would think when you look at these three, there's been several weeks where we've done the pay-per-view podcast, the live watch party, and it's 3 decisions, and it's like you're talking 2 or 3 hours. This week, I would expect Bo Nickel to get a quick victory. I would expect Charles Oliveira to win in round 2 or 3. And I would expect John Jones to win in the first, probably the second round, because you're going to let Stipe go a little bit, I think. So it's not going to be a long night, I don't believe. But you never know. You never know with these things. And normally I might be able to tell you some other stuff I'm doing. At least I'm going to church. That's going to get me out of the house. But the rest of the weekend, we're camping out outside in 40-degree weather, and we're watching sports. And that's how it's going down. And that means I'm going to be definitely in trouble. Definitely going to be. And I mean, if I can get some clips from me getting yelled at, you guys would be like, "Damn, what'd you do to piss her off?" And if she got on here, she'd tell you 20 reasons that I pissed her off. Mostly it's because when I'm watching sports, I'm outside or in a separate room, and I'm off doing my own thing. But I'm an only child, man. That's my excuse. I'm an only child. There's times in my life, a lot of times, where I had to figure out what I'm going to do with myself. So that's my excuse. It doesn't hold up, but that's my defense. You understand? And a defense isn't always a proper defense, but you convince yourself that I convince myself that I'm just watching sports. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not doing anything, but I'm not doing anything wrong. That's my defense. And I usually lose, big time. But it doesn't usually stop me because I'm passionate and I'm motivated. Looking forward to all the talking heads this weekend, what everyone's going to say, because something is going to happen. Getting back to Friday night for a minute, something is going to happen Friday that's going to get everybody, whether Mike Tyson goes down early or, the thing that I think everyone is expecting, if it does happen, people are then going to realize they didn't expect it, and that's if Tyson gets the KO. Because if Jake Paul wins like early, they're going to say it's fixed. If he wins late, they're going to say he fought an old man. But if he loses, people are going to be losing their mind because that's what they want. They want to see Jake Paul fall. But I just don't see it happening because I think everyone's looking at Mike Tyson from the 20, 30-year-old perspective, not the 58-year-old perspective. He still has the power, but that power is going to fade quickly, man. When Jake Paul starts dancing around and tagging him with jabs from distance, that power is going to fall. Jake Paul just has to live in survival mode for the first 4 minutes of the fight. That's all. Just survive. If it goes to round 3, Jake Paul's probability of winning is like 90%. 90%. But let's talk NFL for a minute. Some of these teams are lucky as hell, man. The Kansas City Chiefs, I watched that game. I thought they're going to fall. Denver's not playing their best, but either is Kansas City. Denver's got the ball late, field goal to win the game, and it gets blocked, which is like 1 in 100. Probably worse than that, probably 1 in 300. It gets blocked, and they remain undefeated. That's what has to happen if you want to run the table. You need some breaks. And the Chiefs are more than halfway through the season undefeated right now. So that's a big deal. I don't see anyone beating them. Buffalo's looking good too. There's some teams at the top on both sides that are highly interesting. Highly interesting to see how this thing is going to play out. But I'm still engaged because I'm not counting out the Dolphins yet. I tried to give up when they lost 2 weekends ago. They lost to the Arizona Cardinals at the last second, led the whole game until the end of the game, literally with no time on the clock. They led the whole game from beginning to end until the end. Fell to 2-5. Then play Buffalo on the road. We're probably not winning that game. We're in a position to win. We still lose in the last seconds. So I'm like, I'm not watching anymore. I'm done. I'm done with the Dolphins. I'm done. I had it. It's over. Then we're on Monday Night Football, so now I have to watch because it's the only game on. And we win last night. So now I'm bought in a little bit. We're 3-6. But I'm looking at the schedule, the remaining schedule, and I'm looking at the Dolphins team, and I'm like, it's not far-fetched that they go like 7-2, 6-2, whatever they need to go down the stretch, because they can only afford to lose 2 games and barely sneak in, and they might still not get in. But I could see them in the schedule. There's a couple teams in the way, like the Houston Texans. Not too worried about the Jets. Should beat the Patriots in the division. And all the other games are like against the Raiders. These are all winnable games for the Dolphins. So now I'm bought back in, and that's dangerous as a Dolphins fan. I mean, what did Hootie and the Blowfish say back in the day? The Dolphins make you cry. I mean, it's real, man. Because they always keep you engaged. They keep you engaged just enough to where you're believing that something good can happen and nothing good ever happens. We haven't had a playoff win in how many years? Gosh, since 2001 or 2. It's 2020. I mean, so even if we were to win a playoff game this year, which is far-fetched, it'd be like 23 years since we won a playoff game. And in those 23 years, there's been many points where you're like, oh, there's something good could happen. I mean, right now we got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Tua. Got all these guys, man. Got ODB, Odell Beckham Jr. We got all these guys, man. We got running backs. We got defense. Special teams is solid, and we're 3-6. It's just, it's tough being a Dolphins fan. It's just tough being a Dolphins fan. But 2 good things have happened this year, and that's the Florida Panthers winning the Stanley Cup. I yelled and screamed like a baby. I lost it. Everybody's won now for me in Florida, South Florida, but the Miami Dolphins. I mean, even the Florida Marlins, who are now the Miami Marlins, won 2 World Series. And the Dolphins can't win a Super Bowl? It's terrible. But something is always, looks like it's something good's going to happen. I stay engaged just long enough to be hurt at the end. It's like a girl saying she's going to marry you. You get to the wedding and she doesn't show up. I mean, that's what the Dolphins are, man. And a lot of you out there, I mean, there's 32 teams, so a lot of you out there are fans of the other 31. Some of you might be Dolphins fans, but you go through your ups and downs. But it's just crazy, man. Being a Dolphins fan is just wild. So it's like the weekend could be great, but that bad thing is bound to happen again at some point. It might be Sunday. But yeah, so the Florida Panthers won. The other good thing is Hamza Chimaev beat Robert Whittaker. That made the year. I have to give up the Seminoles. I might have to give up the Dolphins. But Hamza winning backed up everything we said, because you know how serious we are about UFC. And you know how serious we are about the dude list, right? Those are our favorite fighters. And you got Hamza 1, John Jones 2. If John Jones falls, I'm not going to be nearly as crazy as if Hamza fell. I mean, Hamza is number 1 for a reason, because I put him up against anybody. So he won, and the Panthers won. So the year has been good. It has been solid, really great. If any one of your teams in the 4 major sports wins the whole thing, it's a good year. I mean, that happens like one, if you like all 4 sports and you got 4 teams, you might get 1 win every 5 years. So if you get a win in a year, it's a solid year. So it's not like I can complain too much. But dang it, I'm getting older every day, Miami. I need y'all to win a Super Bowl. You understand what I'm saying? I need this to happen. And anyone else on the planet that's younger than me is yet to see a Super Bowl too if you're a Dolphins fan. It's like it needs to happen. and we're just going to continue waiting year in and year out until it does happen. And we might have the best team in the NFL and still not win the Super Bowl. That's what it feels like right now. We might have the best team and still not win. I mean, it's crazy. So this weekend is going to be fire. A lot going on. And I can't wait to see how it all transpires. When we get into these pay-per-view events, I mean, it's like, regardless of what happens, it's going to be exciting. And then you got to stay up to see Dana White in the press conference, because that's even more exciting. He's like Trump of the UFC, man, or Trump of all sports. Like, he's going to say some things to the media. It's going to get testy at times, and therefore you have to watch it. So I stay up even later to 1, 2, 3 in the morning watching the press conference, for goodness sake. So probably when you see me on the next one, which this is the first edition of this weekend, the next one will be last weekend. And that'll come out, after. That'll be like the weekend recap. And I'll probably be telling you how tired I am. At least you got 1 week to go before Thanksgiving break, so I can get through next week. And then at work, we got this big I'm a teacher, and we got this big competition between 8 different classes. It's like a math game, so I'm hoping my class can win the whole thing. And if we get to the final, we get to play in front of the student body. It's like a capture the flag math game. So students are supposed to be in March. The students are so pumped up about it, they wanted it moved up to this week, and spoke to the other teachers in their game. So the kids are going to get what they want, and that's to play against other classes. So they're fired up about it. I'm fired up. So that'll get me through next week, but it's going to be a rough week, man. It's like that every week after pay-per-view, because I'm going to go into Monday with a lack of sleep, right? I'm going to be tired, but at least there's something to look forward to next week, for sure. Yeah, but listen, stay locked in. We're going to be here bringing you all the predictions. Got all the predictions for UFC 309 on the channel, again, at TCMMA Podcast. Find me there, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I just got on TikTok. Oh, my goodness. The kids are always talking about TikTok, and I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And then I get on there, and you can put 10-minute shorts. Forget about it. So now I can put the whole prediction, break the whole thing down of all these fights on TikTok. So I'm locked in on TikTok now. So find us there, too. And, of course, at Crisscross MMA. So, like and share and subscribe at all those places, but especially YouTube, because that's where every video is getting posted on YouTube. 100%. 100%. But listen, if I got a big weekend of sports, I know you do too. Enjoy the fights. Make sure you stay locked into the channel. We're bringing you all the action live. So we will be there. And if you even don't catch it live, catch the videos after the fact, because you might be watching the fight live yourself. But if you want to join the party, man, you want to join the TCMMA watch party, make sure you do that on Friday night. Probably won't be till 11 or 12, because we're only going to do the Jake Paul Tyson fight. And then we'll get the most of the fights on Saturday, but especially the last 3 will be live for. So you don't want to miss it, man. But listen, until then, this is the first episode of this weekend. And we started it this week because it's a big one. It's going down. Stay locked in. And comment on this video. Let me know what you think about all these fights, man. And we'll read back those comments. That'll happen on the next episode, titled Last Weekend. Until then, man, enjoy your weekend. It's your boy Chris Cross. Over and out. Peace.